Welcome to NTV.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
All right. Now, we want to continue discussing the Apaa land conflict based on the government perspective this time around. Why is the conflict consistent or persistent, rather? What was the genesis and why has it persisted?
The genesis is the issue of border. As I must tell the public that Apaa or Amuru and Acholi are not the only districts that have issues related to border conflicts. Among the districts and sub-counties, there are very many around the country. This is only one of them, and I am actually surprised that this one has escalated to this magnitude. The issue is Apaa Trading Center is settled by Acholi community, largely. There are also some Madis, but largely settled by Acholi community. Now, the Acholi community had been voting under Amuru and been administered under Amuru for a long period of time. But around 2012, Acholi district decided to gazette as wildlife, as a game reserve, what we call the East Madi, which falls within Apaa. And a concession was then given by Uganda Wildlife Authority to one of the investors who is conducting tourism. So then problems started that the people in Amuru started complaining why Acholi is moving much closer and administering Apaa, and that is when we were requested as Ministry of Land to go and demarcate, show the two communities where the border falls.
You mentioned gazetting and demarcation,
yes.
and some of the locals actually blame the violence on government's compulsory demarcation of the land without some sort of compromise between the Acholi and the Madi communities. Are you saying that you agree with this position?
I don't agree with that position. What I want to tell the communities and Ugandans at large is that the issue of demarcation, the issue of survey is not a negotiated issue. The second schedule of our constitution gives clearly the boundaries of all the districts and administrative units in this country. The 1958 colonial borders, 1961 borders, 1962, which have been upgraded, all clearly spells out throughout the country where the borders of each of the administrative units of Uganda falls. Therefore, when we do our work, we do it professionally based on the maps that were drawn by colonial boundaries. The problem and the challenge we always have is that communities and many instances, politicians decide to reject the boundaries and incite the community against the officially demarcated boundaries.
Unfortunately, the communities are the ones that end up suffering because we end up seeing loss of life and people being injured. But the same locals or the same communities are saying there doesn't seem to be any tangible solution from government. Can we say that you're failing to resolve?
No, there is a solution. In 2015, we gave a solution. We went and demarcated the boundaries. Actually, it wasn't compulsory. We negotiated from 2014 for the demarcation to take place. It was actually some politicians in Amuru who refused for their technical people to join the demarcation of government. And because there was a conflict, the state has machineries within which to do their work. And therefore, police and the army protected our surveyors, and they demarcated, they put mark stones, and they gave the accurate demarcation. My appeal to the politicians is that let them be calm, let them dialogue, let them accept what everybody else in this country accepts. But also let me say that demarcation doesn't mean that people who are settled on the other side are not allowed to settle. People who are settled in Apaa, whether they are people of Madi or Acholi community are not affected. Their settlement are not affected by any demarcation at all.
We're unfortunately running out of time. You do remember the protest that happened back in 2015.
Yes.
We want to hear from you at policy level. What are some of the long-term, because you did mention that the Apaa land issue is one of many. It's not it's not the only area that has land wrangles. So what are some of the dispute resolution mechanisms that you are suggesting or that you are adopting as government to bring an end to these wrangles?
Broadly, we have to first do demarcation. We have to sensitize the community and the political leaders. We have to also let them understand that you cannot change these boundaries, but that settlement does not affect, is not affected by demarcation. And also where there is need to put structures or institutions like the police to maintain law and order. In the case of Apaa, I think there is now need to put a police post to maintain law and order within that area, but continuous dialogue, calmly, is the way to go. And the politicians really to come to my office and be shown the actual boundary based on the constitution, so that they go and guide their people. There is no better way to do it than for you to respect the constitutional boundary, to respect the boundaries that are anchored under the 1958 and 61 and 62 maps that were drawn in cognizant of all the other aspects.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
Welcome.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. We can't discuss this further, but we do appreciate your input and for you coming to share your thoughts with us. That was Newsnight.